are listening to the Proposify Biz Chat with Kyle Racky, a podcast for entrepreneurs looking to scale. This episode is brought to you by Proposify, software that streamlines your proposal process, impresses clients, and helps you close more deals. Head to proposify.com to start your free trial today.
Hello everyone, I'm Kyle Racky and you are watching or listening to the Proposify Biz Chat, and today is going to be a marketing focused episode. I was introduced to Dave Greenlee through Brent Weaver, who is a guest we've had on a couple of times in the past, who runs Ugurus. Today I have Dave on, who has worked with Brent and Ugurus for a long time. He's also a copywriter who works with a number of different clients and industries focused on front-end customer acquisition and email marketing. He is the copy man. He knows his stuff. Welcome to the show, Dave.
Thank you for having me. Thank you. I appreciate that. And Brent is the man. If your audience doesn't already know that, he's the man. Yep.
Yeah, especially if you run a web design business and you want to kind of get some content and training on how to run a better web design business, how to close higher priced clients. Ugurus really narrows in, focuses on that stuff.
Absolutely. Yep.
So Dave, thank you again for joining me on the show today, and we're going to talk about copy today. We're going to talk about a lot of things. First of all, though, I believe you have a bone to pick with me. So you were telling me that you I want to talk about this. You said you were watching one of the previous episodes we did. A couple weeks ago, we had Mikhail Yang on, who runs a company called ManyChat, and I actually just saw down in San Diego last week, ManyChat was involved there as well. I think he was around, but I didn't see him. Anyway, he was talking on the show about email is dead, how chat bots are the way of the future. Nobody's going to be using email to distribute their newsletters and their blogs, and you're like, nope. Please expound.
So, if you follow that narrative, email has been dead for about a decade now. And I just got to tell you that email is not dead. Even in that podcast episode, one of the things that he said, one of the big wins out of the bots, and I should just preface this with, I think bots are a good thing. I don't think that they're a bad thing by any means. I just think that they are also just a piece in the larger puzzle, I guess I should say. But
so you're not being like a Luddite saying just stick with the old school tactics. You're actually just saying use your new tactics, but don't abandon what works.
Exactly. And one of the things that he had said in the podcast was that one of the big wins is that you get, I think what the term he said was a double lead. So you get them as a message and you get their email address, which is what we all classify as an actual lead in your database. And this might be a little bit off topic, but how many businesses do we need to see grow and then just all of a sudden disappear because they're built on the backs of somebody else's platform, like Facebook? Just recently, a company I think it was called Little Things, 12 million followers on Facebook, that sort of thing. Facebook makes a change to their algorithm and they're gone. I mean, they are gone.
Yes.
So
I agree with that. If you're a software business or your main lead channel is something that you don't directly control, it is dangerous territory.
Yeah. So, I don't know what they did. I don't know that business at all, to be honest with you, but I'm hoping that out of their millions of followers, that they at least captured 50% of those followers by way of email, because that way we can still stay in front of them. We could still make them offers by way of email and great copy. So no, email is not dead. I've been hearing that forever, man. It's just not. The data doesn't stack up.
I think that it does help your headline when you say something is dead.
Correct.
If you say search is dead, social is dead, whatever you're saying. I think it's a very clickable title, but it's easy to declare something dead when it's not. And we know email, the nice thing about email, it's not specific to any one company. No one company owns email, and everybody's got one.
Right.
So let's jump into this, because I think what people will really get out of this that's quite interesting is that you've got quite a background, Dave, in direct response. You've used it. You've talked about using it for realtors in the past, for dentists, and being able to drive customers and leads for them using direct response. So I think what we're going to kind of talk about a little bit is how, if you run a service-based business, an agency, a consultancy, and you want to start using direct response to directly get leads for yourself, how people can go about that, and some sort of strategies and tactics around writing great sales copy that actually attracts leads. So let's kind of dissect that a little bit. First of all, what is, like, I don't really know what direct response really is. I think of it in terms of, what was that called when people used to mail things out to you?
Yeah.
Like little pamphlets and stuff. Direct mail. Direct mail is kind of what I think of. Am I wrong?
No, not at all, man. Still alive and well. Believe it or not, in this online world, you can still use offline direct mail. It's how I cut my teeth in this business. So you can think back, like, even 100 years ago, when these marketers, advertisers would put something in a newspaper. The copy in and of itself was compelling enough for these folks to read an advertisement in some sort of print publication. It elicited enough emotion out of them where they would cut it out, they would write a check, they'd put it in an envelope, they'd walk to their mailbox, and they'd drop it in the mailbox. Right? So that is the sort of action we're trying to get them to take. And direct response is nothing more than that, is that once they have read your offer, and let's just not confuse it at all, direct response is nothing more than making a series of offers, right? So any business person, you're only going to be as good as or as successful as many offers as you make throughout the day, week, month, year, whatever that may be. So if your business is struggling a little bit, I would encourage you to go back through and look at a little bit of data and say, well, how many offers did I make? With the way the internet works, man, you could be making offers 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And that could be an upfront offer. You had talked about the front-end client acquisition. Just means, I'm spending ad dollars, putting my ad in front of somebody. I can't just spend those dollars without getting something in return. A name and an email address is great, but what I really want is a customer and a new lead. So you've got it right when you can spend $1 in advertising and get back a new lead and a new customer. That makes sense?
No, I know. Yeah, I know what a lot of people who talk a lot about Facebook advertising in particular, and sort of digital marketing in a broader sense, talk about the funnel, right? Yep. It's like, you got to warm people up who are cold, so maybe you just give them a free bit of value. You don't ask anything, then you retarget them, then you ask for like maybe a lead magnet that they've got to pay a small amount or fill out a lead form, and then they're a little more warm, and sort of you kind of like move them down that funnel until they're like hot leads, wallet out, ready to buy. What are your kind of thoughts there? How quickly do you kind of go in for the ask and make the offer?
Well, I think that depends on the nature of your business, really. I know that's not a direct answer, but I would prefer to have fewer names on my list that are more active than more names on my list that don't do anything. So, if you're running an ad, let's just use Facebook ads again. If you're running a Facebook ad where you're just immediately asking for some sort of lead magnet, like I'm just going to use digital entrepreneurs or web agency owners, and let's just say they're building websites for dentists or whatever, and they say, hey, I have this white paper that just explains everything about what you need to do to get your website in terms of search engine optimization, mobile friendly, all that sort of stuff. And this white paper will explain everything. Just give me your name and your email address. And that's the first interaction. So chances are you're going to get a bunch of names and email addresses. They're going to download your white paper. It's going to be a tremendous amount of value. But on the back end of that, I don't know how many proposals you will get from that. And this is a personal opinion, you could ask 10 different marketers, they may give you 10 different answers. I would much rather spend a long time on the front end, meaning I want you to read a lot. So, if it's not just an ad straight to a squeeze page. What I'd like to see is an ad straight to maybe 2 or 3 pages of actual content, where I can now begin to control that entire narrative of what the problem is and how it's actually solved. So let's use Wix. Your audience talk about Wix, kind of pricing them out and all that sort of stuff? No?
I'm sure they know who they are. Like, I think Wix is probably eating the lunch of a lot of small web design agencies.
Right. So if I were in that space, and I should just say for clarification's sake, I'm not a techie. Yeah, I'm not. I write ad copy. I'm a sales guy, not a techie. So forgive me if I say some ignorant things in the next few minutes. But
we'll forgive you.
If I were in that space, I would bring it up. First and foremost, I would bring it up. Like, if my headline might be something like, thinking about using Wix? ? Right? And I would just begin that narrative. And what I would do is somebody in that space may understand that Wix is not the end-all be-all solution to somebody who's trying to run a very robust website. And I would go down that entire process. I would write multiple pages, almost like a trial attorney. Like, I would start with my opening argument, and then I would go down this list of things that they are going to fall into trouble with if they decided to use Wix. And again, I'm not a techie guy, so I don't know what those would be, but like, I know they exist. I know that there are faults with it. So I would highlight every single one of those faults. And I would make sure that it is extremely pertinent to the end user. So keep...
And you don't need to be a techie guy either, right? Like, that's the beauty of, I think actually if you're a web design agency owner or you do, you're a dev shop, the tendency is probably to go a little too technical. So
yes.
I made this mistake. I used to run a web design business, and I love talking about the technology side of things and talking about, HTML5 and responsive web design and the type of CMS we were using on the back end. And I probably went too far that way, where clients, like, if you're marketing to dentists, they don't give a shit.
They don't care.
Like, any of the technical stuff. It's like, what problem are you solving?
Correct.
And I like that you kind of address that elephant in the room. So you're saying, kind of almost like the way in sales, you always want to talk about what the client is thinking about or the lead is thinking about. If they're thinking like, hey, I can get this done by, I can get this outsourced to India for a fraction of the price. If that's really what they're considering, it's like, you want to address that. Like, hey, I know you guys could do this, but here's why it could be better. So I like that. It's like, thinking about using Wix, here's some of the issues that you might have with that.
Absolutely, man. And yeah, keep all the technical verbiage completely and totally out of your sales process. Out of it completely. Not only do they not care, but they won't understand it, and they'll just check out. They'll say, this isn't for me. This isn't for me, so I'm just going to leave. And in terms of like the dentist, we use them again. All they want is people in the chair. Can you help me get people in the chair, or can you not? And you might need to use a little bit of technical verbiage to kind of show a little bit of expertise about how that's done, but keep it solution-oriented, 100% solution-oriented. Yep.
I love this example of the web design business trying to get dentist clients and do their website. I think this is very, very applicable to probably a lot of people watching or listening to it. And so I want to kind of go further down that road because, as I said, I used to make that mistake of going too technical. But I also think that a lot of, and you would have had a lot of experience writing this kind of stuff at Ugurus and for their audience. I think a lot of web design agency owners, dev shops, people who build digital products for clients, whatever you want to call that, I think they have a lot of trouble communicating their value to their end clients, and in turn having their clients go like, okay, I'm going to pay your higher end fees to, instead of going to Wix or Squarespace or having somebody on Elance do it for a fraction of the price. I'd love to help those guys kind of craft maybe some of their value prop a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely. So just as a point of reference, like if you're, so I'll just say I did run a very small advertising agency for just a few years, and my very first client was a dentist. So all he cared about was getting people in the seats. Okay, so in terms of building out that structure and not using Wix, like, okay, so Wix can help you get a website, but let's talk about search engine optimization, right? Let's talk about multiple pages. Let's talk about content creation. Let's talk about running ads to some of that sort of stuff. And at the end of the day, stop talking about yourself as a web developer and start talking about yourself as an arm of their business. I just help you get business on the internet. Even if you don't look at yourself as a marketer, that's what they are going to want from you as a marketer. So
I think that's a hard pill to swallow for a lot of people listening to this, especially if they pride themselves on being a web design development agency. We build websites. I would say, to your point, take out "we build awesome websites" out of every headline. And I know I had this on my website homepage. "We build awesome websites" was literally my headline, and I don't think clients could give two shits about it.
So does every 15-year-old cousin in the basement of their parents' house build websites at a fraction of the cost that you're going to do it for, especially if you're going to try to build a business around it. I mean, if it's just you and you're just banging out websites, well, by all means, do whatever you need to do. But if you're trying to build and run a business, so the value proposition, getting.
Well, I mean, I think you said it really is like getting leads to their door it matters so much more to, whatever industry you target for your agency. If you go after dentists, if you go after real estates. I just had my last podcast I just recorded was an agency that focused just on selling to coaches and kind of thought leaders and experts and people who do public speaking and that kind of thing. They just focus on helping those guys with their digital marketing. At the end of the day, it's all the same value prop.
Yep.
It's like, if go to Wix if you want the cheap website, if that's all you want. But if you want leads in the door, asses in your dentist chairs, come to us. It's such a powerful thing.
So here's, if somebody is going to take notes, this is something that you could use for any industry, for any offer. There's a legendary copywriter by the name of John Carlton. He calls this the bar stool test. So imagine you're sitting at a bar, you by yourself, maybe eating a piece of pizza, drinking a beer, and you overhear a conversation next to you. I'm just going to stick with this dentist theme here. And it's a dentist, and he's like, man, I just don't get it. I got this Wix site, and like my website's not ranking, and I can't get any traction. So you have your perfect prospect sitting right next to you. So the barstool test is you can turn to them, and in a matter of literally like 60 seconds, you can immediately gain their attention. So if it were this person at the bar, the dentist, here's how it works. We help fill in the blank of your target audience. So we help dentists, and then highest, the biggest benefit that you can think of. So we help dentists get more qualified leads. So that would be the biggest benefit without whatever they've been doing, without having to do their own coding, without having to build their own websites, without having to, whatever the case may be. So we help target market, biggest benefit without the biggest headache that they are currently facing.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
I like that. Well, I'm going to try this for myself. So our company's Proposify. We're a SaaS business, and Proposify helps service-based businesses and sales teams shave hours off of their proposal process and close more deals without having to write their proposals in Word or InDesign.
Right. We help digital agencies, or whoever your market is, we help digital agencies craft winning proposals that get a higher rate of return without having to spend 5 hours mucking around in Microsoft Word or InDesign.
That's way better than mine. That's no fair. Like, I've been doing this for this business for years, and you just blew my headline out of the water.
That's the ticket, right? So currently I do a lot of work with nonprofits. I have a headline on LinkedIn that says, I help nonprofits, ministries, and churches get up to 3,750 new visitors every single month using a powerful grant program.
That's awesome.
Yeah, without having to run your own ads. So that's
Barstool test.
That's it, man.
Brilliant.
That's it.
People listening to this, think about how to do that for your own business, because I can almost guarantee that a lot of people do not have a solid elevator pitch worked out or Barstool pitch. Like when you're sitting at the bar with somebody, can you succinctly say what you do without resorting to just saying, "Oh, we're a web design shop"?
Right, because everybody's a web design shop. And then
if you're Nike, you don't say like, "Oh, we're just a shoe company."
Yeah, we make tennis shoes. Yeah. And I guess I should say, like, all you're really hoping to get from that is, tell me a little bit more about that. That's all you're looking for. You're not looking for a proposal. You're not looking for the next meeting. And this is direct response at its finest. I want to make you one really quick offer, and I want to get a response from you immediately. So that response at the Barstool test would be, "Oh, that's great, man. Tell me a little bit more about that." Or any response would be good. But then again, I'm a sales guy, so even if they were like, "Get out of here," I'd be like, "No, seriously."
Well, if somebody says, "Ooh, that's interesting," like, because I have that problem, that's a great response compared to somebody just going, "Oh, that's nice."
Yeah.
You know, because if somebody really doesn't care about what you do, and if I'm talking to my grandma about Proposify, she's just like, "That's nice, dear." That's nice is probably the biggest insult.
Right.
I don't know if she doesn't mean it that way, but like that's the worst thing someone can say to you. "Oh, that's nice."
That's a no.
That's a no.
That's a no. Every time that's a no. Yep.
Yeah.
That's nice.
That's nice. It's the same thing like if somebody says you're nice, as if that's their compliment to you. "Oh, Dave, he's a nice guy."
He's a nice guy. Yeah.
That's the best you've got? Such a slap in the face.
We don't know each other that well then, I guess.
Speaking of the Barstool test, I really love that. You had talked before we were recording about something else, which was like the 9-word email.
Yeah.
That somebody wrote. Can you talk about that?
Yeah, absolutely. So this is, let's just say maybe you've had some communication with prospect, or they've come through your funnel, just wherever you're at in that process. And it's crickets after that, right? Maybe they did a proposal, or I have no idea, but they've lost communication. It's been a couple of months. So there's a gentleman by the name of Dean Jackson. He is a fantastic copywriter, email marketer, and the 9-word email. Okay, so subject line here is just something really simple. So what we're trying to convey here is that you're not just one of 1,000 people that I'm emailing today. Okay, so we want it to seem really, really personal. So subject line is just something simple like, "Hey," right? And if you have the time to do this, you can say, "Hey," first name, if you know who they are, right? And then the body copy of the email is just this: "Are you still interested in developing your website?" ? That's it. And I know it sounds simple, and I know people are going to just gloss over it and say, "Well, that's stupid." Send that email, okay? And again, direct response, all we want is a response, meaning I don't care if it's a no, I just want you to respond to it. Or maybe it's a yes, or maybe it's, "Well, some things have changed and now our budget looks a little bit different," or whatever the case may be. I just want to start that dialogue again. So, "Hey, are you still interested in whatever your service is?" And you will get that email pulls a better response than some of the long form copy stuff that I write with a whole bunch of ninja tricks in it. It works, man. It absolutely works.
We tried it here too, and I think we got a good response rate. So at the end of people's trials, if they're not active, they just signed up for a free trial, didn't play around with it, never came back.
Yep.
We kind of drip some emails of like, "Hey, here's how you can get some great use out of Proposify." But I think it's at the end of their trial, and I could be wrong on some of these details, none of those emails engage them. We actually do the 9-word email. I didn't know where it came from. Yep. Somebody else recommended it to us, and we literally say, "Hey, are you still looking for help with your proposal process, or are you still looking for help saving time off your proposal," or whatever it is. And I don't have the numbers in front of me, but the response rate is good. People will apologize and go,
"Absolutely,
I'm sorry, I just I never got time. And you figure it out. You figure if they're worth still going after.
Yep. And I think that the mistake that people are going to want to do with that email is they're going to want to put a disclaimer at the end of that question. So they'll say, are you still interested in the web development project? And just end it right there. People are going to want to put a disclaimer at the end of it because it's the end of the month and blah, 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 blah. Like, no. Don't do that. Don't do that. Just send that 1 9-word email or whatever it is, and you will get responses from it.
Yeah, absolutely. It's like you almost need to treat it like emailing somebody like your colleague or
absolutely.
Friend. You don't go like, hey, can you send me that file? Send me that PDF on email marketing from a while back.
Yeah.
Like nobody ever adds anything after that. You just ask the question. I like that. Emails are too long in general, and I find I'm getting more and more as time goes on, but maybe it's because I say hey, if you have any questions, email Kyle at Proposify, and I'm letting people know my email address, so I'm getting a lot more sales emails. Some of them are like books. They're books.
Yeah.
I don't even know who they are, and I'm not reading all that.
Yeah. So context is everything in that regard, right? So I do both. I've written really, really short emails, and I've written really, really long emails. And I think that the rule of, I forget who said it, but how long should your copy be? And the answer is always as long as it needs to be.
As long as it needs to be, yeah.
Right. So
yeah, I've heard that.
If you can write good copy and you can keep a certain amount of attention throughout the process, well, then keep writing. I could get into that a little bit too, but yeah, at the end of the day, I know a lot of people are really wanting to get more. With a lot of what I do in the writing is I'm trying to disqualify most people. So the more I can write, the more I can disqualify, which is earlier when I said I'd rather have a longer front end because I want fewer people on my list. But the people that I do have on that list, I want them, at the end of the day, I could care less about open rates. I could care less about any of that stuff. What I want is a high sales rate, right? So if I can have fewer people who take a higher action, it's less expensive and more profitable every time.
Mm-hmm. And that's really good advice too, especially where people who sell higher end services. If you're a volume-based business and you're selling widgets, you're selling software as a service, and you need millions of subscribers, then that's great. But especially when you're selling higher end services and you really don't need that many good, you need 10 great leads could be amazing, could be better than 100 shitty leads.
Right. Every day. I'd much rather have those 10 than 100. And if you have an autoresponder service, you pay for every single lead. So just keep it tight, and keep it high quality every time. Yep.
Now, when we started this discussion, we were talking about chatbots, and you were saying you're not against chatbots or anything like that. Mm-hmm. Do you think that is going to change? If you were, let's say, hired to help somebody with the messaging within their chatbot, do you think the standard copywriting best practices apply? Do you think there's any difference in how you would approach that problem?
Copy is always king. Always king. You could use all the widgets in the world, but if you're not getting their attention, eliciting some desire from them to the point where they're interested enough to take action, none of it matters. You could invest $10,000 a month on Facebook ads and have this reach of 40 million people, but if you're not saying the right thing to the right audience, you're dead in the water, man. Every single time. And I know this from experience. So chatbots in and of themselves, I don't see anything wrong with them at all, but make it a piece of the larger puzzle, right? It needs to fit within the context of what you're trying to do with your marketing plan. Absolutely. Yeah.
Totally. Dave Greenlee, thank you so much for being on the show. If people want to chat with you, maybe talk about, because I think you are taking on some clients. The right clients, of course. If people want to reach out about that, can they get in touch with you?
Yeah. Easiest way to do that is just shoot me an email. ddgreenlee@gmail.com. Greenlee is green like the color, Lee. So ddgreenlee@gmail.com. Or hit me up on Facebook. I'm not super active in the posting, but if you shoot me a message or a friend request, I'll definitely get it.
That's awesome.
Yep.
And closing with a LinkedIn tactic you promised me before.
Yes.
We were going to talk about that. If people haven't stopped listening by now, just wait. Just hear about this.
So LinkedIn, which is an overlooked redheaded stepchild in the social media world, also happens to have the highest caliber of individuals in terms of net income. Right, so I think Facebook is like 40 grand. LinkedIn's like 110 grand on average in terms of their average user. You can do some really cool stuff with their advanced search. And maybe we should have talked about this a little more, but you can really, really drill down to who it is that you're looking for. So let's just use the dentists again. So you can find any and all dentists in any and all geographical area, right? So marketing 101, message to market match, right? So we want to be able to find the exact person we are looking for. So go to their advanced search and find your target market. Hopefully these people have businesses with more than 10 people in them. You can filter all that through. But this is specifically for the messaging. Right under your name is where most people put, I went to school at the University of Missouri, so it would say, Dave Greenlee, copywriter, University of Missouri, blah, 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 blah. And that's a very, very poor use of space in the advertising world. So get rid of all that and write a headline. Okay, so mine says, I help nonprofits, churches, I forget exactly what it says, but it's the Barstool test. It's a headline. It is 100% a headline about exactly who I help, and that's exactly who I target, right? So here's how that works from how it actually plays out. So let's just say, for instance, you run a nonprofit. I send you a connection request. You look at your email, and in that email, it's going to show me a snippet. And pause. Email marketing, right? So you get an email from LinkedIn. It says Dave Greenlee wants to connect with you. You click on that email, and it shows you a snippet. And it says, I help nonprofits, blah, 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 right? So it's a headline directed specifically to you. You click on that, you open it up, and in your summary, where most people are going to say, he's a strong-willed young man with a background in this, that, and the other, and he has track record of this. No. That's where you have an opportunity to go ahead and write your actual message, right? So this is where the body copy of your offer takes place. So if you're into doing lead generation for free to a very, very targeted audience, LinkedIn is a fantastic place to do that. So
that's awesome.
In your headline, you have 120 characters to write that Barstool test. And in your summary, you have an opportunity to now bring up, let's just use that Wix example again. Thinking about using Wix? And then go ahead like a trial attorney and write out all of the problems and then give them the benefits of what it would look like if they worked for you. And a call to action, if you're really gangster about this, your call to action could be to a webinar, it could be to a sales page, it could be to an opt-in. And just like I said earlier, I want them to do a lot of reading before they give me their name and email address. So at the end of that summary, you could absolutely put in a call to action to go to their landing page, to go to their webinar, to shoot me an email, whatever the case may be. Yeah.
That's awesome. That's a really great takeaway for people. So go try that out. I'm sure everybody listening to this is on LinkedIn. Don't waste all that precious real estate talking about what school you went to. Put your Barstool test right in there.
Yep.
And the offer. That's a great takeaway, Dave.
Yep.
Thank you again for being on the show.
Happy to do it, man. Thank you for having me.
Very cool. All right, if you guys are listening to this and you want to check out show notes, go to proposify.com/podcast and see the latest episode. And for more like this, be sure to hit subscribe, and you'll get new content every week. Thank you so much.
Thanks for listening to the Proposify Biz Chat with Kyle Racky. For more episodes, check us out on YouTube, iTunes, SoundCloud, or Google Play. Click subscribe to get updated on the latest episodes, and be sure to rate and review.